Good morning. You were live in the CNN newsroom. I'm Jim Acosta in Washington. We begin with Donald Trump spreading a new and false conspiracy theory to attack Vice President Kamala Harris over a familiar obsession for the former president. His latest lie that Harris is using artificial intelligence, or AI, to create images of, quote, fake crowds, as he calls them. Of course, there's no truth to that claim. You can see right here, Harris objectively brought out big crowds at her events. We were there. We have the video. That's clearly bothering the former president, who is once again saying without any merit that the press is in on the alleged plot, which it's not.
They said, oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd. The press is talking about the crowd. In New Jersey, I had 107,000 people. The press never even talked about it because they're fake.
Harris' campaign is mocking Trump's obvious irritation on his own social media network and out on the campaign trail.
On Wednesday, the largest crowd of the campaign showed up in Detroit, Michigan. It's not as if anybody cares about crowd sizes or anything.
The fresh Democratic enthusiasm isn't the only sign of a dramatically reshaped race. A new poll has Harris making gains in the critical blue wall states by a sizable margin. Harris' victories in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin would likely mean that she would win the presidency. So let's break down these numbers. I'm Jim Acosta in Washington today. Former President Donald Trump is back in a battleground state for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, stumping this afternoon in North Carolina for the third time this year. This was the scene at the venue this morning. His supporters already gathering outside. The Trump campaign is promising that today's event will focus on the economy, but the big question, of course, is whether he will stick to those economic remarks or revert back to his familiar outlandish attacks that we've seen in recent days. On right-wing media, his allies are begging for him to get back on script.
I want this campaign to win. But the campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes. It's not going to win talking about what race Kamala Harris is. It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb.
You've got to make this race not on personalities. Stop questioning the size of her crowds and start questioning her position.
The winning formula for President Trump is very plain to see. It's fewer insults, more insights, and that policy contrast.
So far, that's falling on deaf ears as Trump's often fact-free personal attacks against the vice president continue to remind voters that, in his own words, he has not changed.
Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. You know, she's not a smart person, by the way. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Joining us now ahead of Trump's visit to Asheville is the city's mayor, Esther Manheimer. Former President Donald Trump's campaign promised a speech about the economy, but yesterday voters heard more personal attacks. That's despite his allies' many warnings to reboot his campaign and focus on issues over insults.
We have stupid people like Kamala and Joe running our country.
You've got to make this race not on personalities.
That's the laugh of a crazy person, I will tell you. If you haven't known it, it's a crazy.
The campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes.
We have the biggest crowds ever in the history of politics.
It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb.
She's not smart. She's not intelligent.
It's fewer insults.
The clown that she picked as a vice president, this guy's a clown. He was so bad. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go.
Trump did eventually address some economic issues during his self-described intellectual speech, but as usual, he made false claims, fanciful promises, and this time tried out an unusual, incoherent analogy.
We're doing this as a intellectual speech. You're all intellectuals today. So this is Tic Tacs, right? This is inflation. This is Tic Tac. This is Tic Tac. This is inflation. This is what's happened. We intend to slash prices by half within 12 months, at a maximum 18 months. Many people say that the only reason the stock market is up is because people think I am going to win. But there was one day, a couple of weeks ago, when they weren't thinking that, and you saw what happened.
Let's discuss with CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers and Republican strategist Matt Mowers. Good morning. You were live in the CNN newsroom. I'm Jim Acosta in Washington. We begin with what the Trump campaign is calling the interview of the century. Last night, the former president sat down for a rambling 2-hour conversation with the world's richest man, Elon Musk. It got off to a rocky start, beginning more than 40 minutes late, due in part to what Musk described as an alleged cyber attack, although others dispute that. This riveting elevator music kept listeners on the edge of their seats, though, and Trump spent much of the conversation, once it got going, fixating on a man he is no longer running against before finally shifting to his new opponent, attacking Kamala Harris's intelligence and gushing over her physical appearance.
Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. You know, she's not a smart person, by the way. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla, that's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
We'll fact check that in a moment, but Trump mainly focused not on his Democratic rival, but the familiar go-to grievances and lies often heard in his stump speeches.
All the courts do is they try and focus on Trump. Okay, let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. The only one that gets prosecuted is Donald Trump. They prosecute Trump. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life.
They called it an interview, but Musk did not push back on those lies about the 2020 election or the justice system. In fact, he didn't push back on any of Trump's estimated 20 false claims. He did, however, heap praise on the former president. That infatuation was clearly mutual.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it.
Joining me now to break it all down, CNN's Kristen Holmes.
Yet again, former President Donald Trump is praising some of the world's most ruthless dictators. During his meandering 2-hour-long conversation last night with Elon Musk, Trump outlined what he believes a strong relationship with Russia's President Putin, China's President Xi, and North Korea's Kim Jong-un is in America's best interest. Listen to this.
I know Putin, I know President Xi, I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. They're at the top of their game. They're tough, they're smart, they're vicious. You know, getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way.
This morning, more backlash against Donald Trump praising the world's richest man for firing workers on strike.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone.
Vice President Harris and I have both had the privilege of joining workers on the picket line. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they see the world very differently than we do. They've waged war on workers, and their ability to collectively bargain to take that away from them. All we're asking for is better wages, better benefits, better lives, and dignity in the work that we do.
Now, in response to those comments from Trump, the United Auto Workers Union filed federal labor charges against former president and Elon Musk, and notably Teamsters president Sean O'Brien, who spoke at the RNC, told Politico that, quote, firing workers for organizing, striking, and exercising their rights as Americans is economic terrorism.
Donald Trump may have won the Republican nomination by a wide margin, but the former president still faces some serious opposition from within his own Republican Party. Last night, a group called Republicans for Harris held a call to mobilize disaffected GOP voters. Thousands of lifelong Republicans and former lawmakers shared their stories and made their case for putting country ahead of party. Listen.
As a firsthand witness to the chaos of the Trump presidency behind closed doors, I could say this: we cannot go back.
This is no longer the party of principles, and it shows.
If we can defeat Donald Trump,
then we can go back to the luxury of arguing about policy.
So if your neighbor, a Republican, doesn't want it to be Trump's party, Trump's got to lose, and he's got to lose by a lot. And that means we Republicans have to vote for the only person who can beat him.